How excited are you about the new Orks Tactical Brigade detachment? So GW has been dropping a ton of new Grotmas detachments throughout the month of December 2024. This is absolutely exciting to have a new detachment for the Orks. It's very cunning. The Blood Axes have a new way of thinking on the battlefield, and it's going to make you change your mind in how you play Orks currently. It's a different play style, to be completely honest with you. It's a lot more shooty. So today on Ops, episode 30, we're going to do an entire breakdown of the new Tactical Brigade detachment. Stay tuned and locked in. All right, and we're back at it with the new Orks Tactical Brigade detachment, and we're going to do a complete breakdown. So, starting off with the detachment rule, right? Listen, ear. Everyone knows, if you've read this detachment rule already, that's dropped on the Warcom on Games Workshop website, knows how mostly this interacts, right? I know a lot of people were having a couple issues trying to figure out exactly how many orders you can have in total in your entire army, things like that. But what you're going to have is you're going to have the ability to take two tactics for each model doing those particular orders. All right. And if you end up taking two tactics, you're going to take a leadership test on the character. And if it fails, you're going to put damage on the unit that you're trying to put the tactics order on. All right. So that's exactly how it works. You could have as many characters doing this. Obviously, it has to be the boss Snickrot, mech, and war bosses. Now, there's a lot of issues going on currently with what types of war bosses you can particularly take, right? Things like Beast Boss on Squigosaur, Death Killer War Trike, putting them with commandos and units like that can seem very odd and weird. But currently, rules as written, those units actually work for those particular case scenarios. So make sure that you're cognizant of that. That can actually make your units a lot better. And we're going to do a deep dive onto what particular characters can make your units a lot better depending on what type of enhancement, stratagem, or the orders that you particularly have. Okay. So first of all, who can issue the orders? The epic character, and the only epic character currently, if you're reading it as intended, right? Because if you look at War Boss, even Gazgul and Mazrog is still a War Boss. But since they're only calling out one epic character here, everybody feels like it's just the one epic character. And obviously, Gaz and Mazrog are not Blood Axes. So you would think that they would not apply to any of these rules. But that's Boss Snickrot, who is an actual Blood Axe. Then you have the mechs. We have a Big Mech and Mega Armor. Big Mech with Shock Attack Gun, so Big Mech with SAG, or just a regular mech. You also have the War Boss keyword, the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, Death Killer War Trike, War Boss and Mega Armor. And a lot of these can seem weird as well, where you see the Beast Boss and you attach it to a Mando's unit and you're like, this seems pretty odd. It's actually very nasty, and we're going to talk about that here very shortly, how the combination and the synergy works between those two units. But this is basically who can issue the actual orders, who can divvy out the two tactics to those units. And this is very exciting. This is something that Guard wish they had at this great level, right? When it comes to orders, specifically that it points out that once per battle round in your command phase or after being set up on the battlefield, which means that you can hop out of a truck or a battle wagon and actually do these orders as well. Give them out to other units, give them out to the units that you're attached to, things like that. So I like actually how they worded this to make sure that it covers all cases or most cases, if not all cases, of those type in particular type of scenarios. Obviously, you can't do this while you're battle shock, and if you become battle shock, all of those tactics cease to actually affect the unit that is battle shocked. So moving on to best units for the orders. So to get stuck in, right, you can re-roll charge rolls for this made for this unit. So the best units this is going to work on is going to be the Death Dreads. They don't innately have re-roll charges, and you really want them to get stuck into combat as quick as possible, especially with the possibilities of these stratagems and enhancements and orders that you can do to these particular units. Also, excuse me, I do apologize, everyone, coming under a little bit of a cold, but you also have the kill rig, reroll charges for the kill rig. You definitely want the kill rig in there. It has like 3 different variants of melee weapons you can get stuck into close combat, so it can get very nasty very quickly. And actually, I have it written down. Get on with it for the kill rig, where you're going to have 3 profiles, one at strength 7, one at strength 10, and one at strength 12 in the WA. So that can definitely help you to get that unit in there and get stuck in. You also have the Mandos, the Mega Knobs, the Knobs, Squig Hog Boys, and the Storm Boys. All of these units either don't have reroll charges innately, like Breaker Boys already have it innately, so you don't need to put that and double up for those particular units. You can take something else on them. But these particular units are the units that you really want to get stuck into the battle. Then we're going to move on to Get On With It, right? Get On With It adds 1 strength characteristic to melee weapons equipped by models in this unit. So you stack that with the WA, you stack that with the kill rig, things like that. It can get very bananas where you're having units to just have a multitude of additional strength. But the Breaker Boys are the first one. And I did this in particular because we all know that they like to fight monsters and vehicles, right? And they automatically wound those on 4s. But making them strength 8 against Space Marines, Terminators, things like that, units that are obviously toughness 4 or less, you're going to end up wounding on 2s. So very beneficial for them if you need to get that. If you have 2 kill rigs, you can make them strength 10. So all those toughness 5 models will get wounded on 2s. It's going to be very challenging to punch up to something like a monster or vehicle that has a toughness of 10 or higher. Really, with the Breaker Boys, honestly, if it's strength 7 or higher with them, without them taking any buffs, it's going to be a challenge for them to actually punch up. So any benefits to their strength can actually help them depending on what type of units they're going against. Yes, they're a particular tool for monsters and vehicles when it comes to the Breaker Boys, but they can also be used for units like Terminators, for units like Space Marines and Power Armor, Chaos Space Marines, things like that. So you can ensure that you're trying to kill everything on the tabletop. You don't want to just be a specialist in one particular thing, even though they're awesome in that, right? But you also want to make sure that you fill in any gaps if you have an opponent who doesn't have those type of units, and you just have to kill aberrants or something like that, right? 3 wounds, multiple wounds, more than 2, things like that. You want to make sure that you kill those off very quickly, and this can help with that. Also, the Death Dread goes up to strength 14 with the WA. Flash Gits, it's another good one as well. Obviously, you don't want your Flash Gits fighting in close combat, but I try to double whammy with my Flash Gits because they're basically knobs. They have AP1 on their weapons, right? On their choppers. So they're 2 wound models, strength 5, AP1, and if you can get them into the WA with this additional order, right, they go up to strength 7, which can put you in a very good spot. So you have those very niche type of units that are toughness 6. You being strength 7 with Flash Gits, not only do you shoot them first, you then go into close combat with them and try to finish them off if you don't finish them off with all that shooting. Gretchen, oddly enough, go up to strength 4, right? Then they get the +1 to wound with Zogrod, so they can wound most things that are toughness 4, or all things that are toughness 4 on 3s. And then if you could get up to strength 5 with some kill rigs, things like that, you can wound on 2s, which is absolutely amazing. So just kind of wanted to point that out to everyone. Kill rig, like I was telling you, your 3 different profiles go up to strength 7, strength 10, and strength 12 with the WA and the order. Killicans go up to strength 10. Mega Knobs go up to strength 11 with the PK, which is the Power Claw. If you're an Ork player, you should know this. And 14 with the Saws. Knobs with the big choppers go up to strength 9 and 11 with the PK. Squighog Boys. Put Squighog Boys in a very good position. And you're going to see here some commonalities that are going to be ran through all of these lists, and Squighog Boys are going to be that, right? They're going to have the ability to basically benefit from all of these orders, stratagems, and enhancements, things like that. So Squighog Boys are going to go up to strength 8 with the big choppers and the jaws, right? Puts them in a great scenario, especially going against Space Marines. And they're already a specialist against monsters and vehicles, which is very good. So this allows them to deal with just regular infantry and everything else in the game. And then Storm Boys, which is very big. Having Storm Boys at strength 6 or even strength 5, going against other Marines and wounding on 3s is a lot better than wounding on 4s. So get on with it. It is very strong. It's going to help a lot of units when it comes down to the new Orks Detachment. And don't forget that the Storm Boys gain the battle line keyword. So currently I'm creating some lists, and in one of those lists, I'm going to have about 20 to 25 Storm Boys, 3 to 4 units of 5 Storm Boys, and 1 unit of 10. So then I can get that use that stratagem on them, and we'll talk about that here shortly. But that stratagem, so basically they can jump into jump pack infantry and start doing mortar wounds in the charge. So continuing on with the best units for these particular orders, the 2 tactics or 1 tactic, whatever you choose. Next up, we have the sneaky stalking, right? So sneaky stalking is for infantry and mounted models only, excluding mega knobs. They will get the stealth and cover for that attack, which makes these units absolutely amazing. A lot of these Ork units are going to end up turning into power armor Marines. Things like flash kits, which are going to get a 3+ save plus a -1 to hit. Gretchen are finally going to get a save with a 6+ save. I just kind of wanted to show you so you know what level of benefits this has. Gretchen actually getting a save if you have 0 AP is very nice, right? Also, Knobs getting a 3+ save, and then Squighog Boys getting a 3+ save as well. And like I've been telling you, Squighog Boys have been on every single one of these lists. Squighog Boys are benefiting from everything that's coming off of this detachment. So be very cognizant of that. Make sure that you try them out in any of your tactical brigade lists. They're going to be, it's looking like they're going to be pretty strong. We're the judge is still out to figure out if we're going to actually be in a good position with this detachment, and see if this detachment is as good as Warhorde or any of the others. I think it's showing that it has the potential to be, but we're going to have to see here in a couple of weeks, couple of months, and see which one is the better detachment. But I think this is going to be very flavorful. It's going to be very competitive. Also, you have the next order, which is the shooter drills. I love this name, shooter drills. So flash kits are going to be able to get a 4+ to hit. Looters with their def guns are finally going to hit on 5s. Squighog Boys are actually going to hit on 3s with their gits, their saddle git weapons, and then 4+ to hit with their regular weapons. Tank busters hitting on 4s, and war bikers hitting on 4s as well. War bikers have a ton of attacks. Tank busters can get a ton of rocket shots as well. And with their innate ability, and I want to say it's a pulsar rocket, you can get +1 strength to all of their weapons, +1 AP. So rockets, strength 10, AP 3, 3 damage flat can be very strong, hitting on 4s. So you want to try to benefit and buff all those units up as much as possible. All right, and that was all of the tactics for the new Orks Detachment. Now we're going to go into the enhancements and how all of these enhancements best synergize with what particular units, what they can do potentially, things like that. So first one up is the squad leader. So the beast boss with the ferocious rage helps out with dev wounds and +1 to hits as well, which is what the ferocious rage does for dev wounds. So having a beast boss that's attached to a unit of commandos allows you to get stuck in uh, um, with higher efficiency, right? So once you get into close combat, if you've already staged yourself where you're 9 inches away from the deployment zone, right, and you've infiltrated, and you have that beast boss in that unit, he's going to put out a lot of high potential damage when it comes to his ferocious rage, giving out dev wounds, and +1 to hit to the unit as well. So any of your breaching rams and your PK from that commando squad are going to be hitting on a lot better weapon skill. He himself is going to help you out a ton to tag units that you want to put more wounds on, right? Dev wounds rather. Same difference, but they work a little bit differently. But the amount of attacks and damage that you can put out with the beast boss being attached to commandos is going to be a very good option. Also, your other option is to have beast boss on Squigosaur for a +1 to charge. So you're 9 inches away. Now you're going to be 8 inches for a charge without moving and things like that, right? So you're +1 inch for the charge for the Mandos, and dev wounds for the jaws, and anti-monster and vehicle as well. And you get you a model in that unit that's attached to this unit. And this is the weird ones where we're talking about that you're gonna potentially have these characters that are beast bosses on Squigosaur attached to commandos, which is gonna feel and play pretty oddly. You're not gonna be able to go through ruins with that one model, things like that. So maneuvering can be a little bit strange as well, but you're gonna have the potential to take a beast boss of Squigosaur who has an 8 toughness, who has 8 wounds. So essentially, you're running around with the Mando's unit with 19 wounds, right, with the knob. So 19 wound Commandos unit for roughly about almost 300 points, with the squad leader a little bit over that, right? But that's also a great option. Snick Rot, of course, gives the unit the upsy downsies, which can be very good for late game objective grabbing, stealing, things like that. The Death Killer War Trike also gives the unit +1 to hit, but if you read it raw, the Fuel Mixer Grot gives the unit a 6-inch auto advance. So these Mandos are moving 12 inches automatically, 6 inches for their movement, 6 inches for their advance. And if you threw the wall on, you can advance and charge as well, right? So that has potential for a lot of speed, specifically for that unit itself, right? So that can be very, very big. Also, you have the War Boss with a ton of attacks that it comes with, right? He already has 4, you get the wall, you get 5, and then he has 4 additional ones for his ability, and he also gives the unit +1 to hit. And one of the last options, but not the least option that I've selected, right? There could be more option out there, but these are the ones that I've selected in particular to talk about, is the War Boss in Mega Armor. With his 3 damage flat axe and +1 to hit, he can be devastating as well into that Commando's unit, right? So you're going to have the ability to punch up very high, do a lot of damage with those commandos with that war boss. He has a great save as well, so he's probably going to be one of the last ones to actually perish in that unit. So there's a lot of possibilities when it comes to the squad leader, what you can attach, because it says it can be attached to a commandos unit, right? That also means that you don't have to attach it to the commandos unit. But if you don't attach it, because it has to be leading the commandos, you will not get infiltrators or the stealth ability. But can you imagine that, right? Just a beast boss with Squigosaur getting infiltrate and stealth, high movement, high ability to do a lot of damage, dev wounds from the beast boss and Squigosaur, things like that. So a lot of possibilities. And this is exactly the path that I wanted to bring everybody down, is all the possibilities, the synergies with this new tactical brigade detachment of these orcs. All right, so this is the big one everyone has been talking about with this enhancement. It's 35 points for the mech captain, but Captain Badrook is back, right? He's just back in enhancement form, which is still very nice, right? You can still pull out that model and be like, all right, this is the model that's going to run this unit, and have that lore, that flavorful character back into the orcs, right? But the best synergies that I can put together for everyone being the mech captain, right? So for the mech captain itself, it says it can be attached to flash kits. It doesn't necessarily have to be attached to flash kits. It can also be attached to tank buses or looters as well, which are the better options. It can be attached to a few other things, but those are the better options when it comes to shooting in particular, right? The big mech can be attached to mech guns as well and go through walls. All right. You ever try to pick off a tank unit with the big mech attached to mech guns and then they just run through a ruin and pick it off with full rerolls, +1 to hit, right? Very, very, very strong when you put the order in combination with it, the +1 to hit and shooting, right? And full rerolls for the entire unit can be very devastating, can be very, very tricksy. Also, are 20 shooter boys a thing, right? You can also do that as well. You could do 20 shooter boys either with a big mech or a big mech, a mega armor, or a big mech, a shock attack gun. Also, a big mech, a mega armor can resurrect each command phase. So every command phase, and I would probably apply this to big mech and mega armor to flash kits or tank buses. But you can every single command phase, including your opponents, you can bring back a guy, right? And you have a 4+ invulnerable save in shooting. So you put the order on for stealth for this unit. So they're -1 to hit with cover and a 4+ invulnerable save. Can get very, 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 very strong. Very resilient unit. Very hard to kill. And they're going to shoot very hard in return. So they're going to be resilient and shoot very, very hard in return. So big mech captain enhancement, the biggest enhancement or probably the biggest synergy and proponent in this entire new detachment, right? Because this is what's going to bring those really strong units, the flash kits, the tank buses, whatever it might be, with those particular characters, the big mech, and mega armor, or the big mech with SAG, and attach those two units and make them nigh impossible to kill, especially if you take the big mech and mega armor, right? And they're going to be super shooty with +1 to hit orders and re-roll full hits, which is going to be disgusting. And if you remember orcs from back in the days, the buggy spam, how good they were when they were hitting on 4s with re-rolls, sustains, and things like that, you saw how powerful they were. And then we move on to Morks Cunning for best synergies. So Morks Cunning, it's any orc model, right? And this allows you to set up those units in strategic reserves, regardless of how many units are already in strategic reserves. But it allows you to take 3 units, redeploy them, or put them in strategic reserves. It allows any non-epic character to bear this. You can also do this while you're in reserves because you're not selecting a particular target, right? Also, any unit can be put in reserves. I don't know. I'm going to go on a limb here and read it by raw and say that it also includes that you can put in extra units no matter the points as well. It says any amount of units, but I'm going to go on a limb and say that it includes all of that inclusively, right? So it doesn't matter how many units or how many points over you are for strategic reserves. You can just put them in there, which is very strong. But this is going to be one of those enhancements that are going to be used a lot, especially if you're a cunning orc player that likes to reshuffle several units. I know I'm going to be taking one. Matter of fact, I'm going to be spending 65 points on the enhancements in this attachment because this attachment has some of the greatest enhancements I've ever seen in any detachment, just about any detachment throughout the game entirely, right? So I'm going to end up taking this one as well, which allows me to reposition, redeploy 3 units, and or just put them in strategic reserves. That can be done to a lot of units. I can pop out with flash kits later on because I plan on running knobs and flash kits, so SWAT teams together, same way, or tank busters rather, and knobs. So tank busters and knobs. That way, the war boss inside the truck with this attached to the knobs can give orders to the flash kit, to the tank busters, to allow them to be +1 to hit, right? Because I want to make sure they benefit from that. So most of the time, I'm going to have those 2 units. You want to call it SWAT teams, you want to call it rocket teams, whatever you want to call it for the tank busters. But tank busters and knobs, the war boss in there giving orders out to the tank busters to make sure that they're better coming out of the vehicle, and then later on for close combat, buffing those knobs from that war boss. Then also you have the Gabooma, which is the last enhancement. The synergy for this is mech is the big one. If not next to a vehicle, it has a lone up ability and can buff 1 unit with 2 orders. So if you can't get everybody to get tactics, right? So specifically those storm boys where you can't attach characters or you can't have things that are keeping up and giving out too many orders, right? You can just get you some regular mechs, some cheap mechs, right? Well, 1 obviously for this enhancement, but that mech can issue out 1 or 2 orders in 18 inches, so you can help out a storm boys unit, things like that, or a squig hogs unit that's across the board, things like that, mega knobs, whatever it might be. You can take this 1 unit that's very cheap, throw it on the board, give it an 18-inch. I select you and give you a tactic or 2 tactics ability, which is very nice as well. All right, moving on to the stratagems. So going off the best ones for case scenario is that's ours, right? So this is going to be one of the better ones that's going to affect your battle line units predominantly, right? Those battle line units are all going to end up going to 3 OC for the boys and Beast Snagger boys, which is going to be very good, especially if you're taking 10 in a unit, right? 3 OC for 10 boys, 30 OC, 20 boys. That's 60 OC. That's going to be crazy. So just trying to remove something for the objective marker is going to be very challenging. And that's not including if you have a pain boy or a war boss attached to that boys unit as well. Storm boys going up to 2 OC because their battle line in this detachment is very good as well. Battle wagons, just kind of wanted to point out a few of these, right? Battle wagons going up to 6 OC. Kill rigs going up to 6 OC as well. Squig hog boys are already 2 OC, so they already have the amount of OC as regular battle line like boys and things like that. So putting 3 OC on every single squig hog, it's going to be major, especially when you're trying to use those fat units of 9 with the character attached to it, and then you're basically going up to 27 OC with that unit, with that character. War bikers as well go up to 3 OC, which is very, very big. For those of you who like to use war bikes, they already have a high OC, but putting them at 3 OC, and let's say you only have a unit of 3, right? That's 9 OC right there on that objective marker, and you could just steal that away from your opponent. Then you also have fight proper as another stratagem. The fight proper is going to be best used with the breaker boys with sustained hits against vehicles, right? So you want to take sustained hits against vehicles. That'll probably be your best option when it comes to the fight proper stratagem. Another case is knobs with lethal hits for high toughness vehicles, because usually you're only at strength 10 in the wall, strength 9 regularly with their PKs, and also mega knobs with sustained hits against vehicles because they're already a higher strength, strength 12. You can put them up to strength 13, 14. If you give them a tactic 13 in the wall, it's 14. So you could do sustained hits against vehicles or just high toughness models. That way you can get as many attacks, because mega knobs with kill saws only have 2 attacks without the wall. So you want to try to get as many attacks in there as possible. Hitting on 3s, wounding on 2s would be very, very beneficial to that unit. So, an awesome, awesome stratagem, right? We all know that this can be used on any single unit because we have War Horde, things like that. But I think lethal hits is actually going to be the biggest one here, where you can put that on units of like Beast Snaggers, Boys, so they can punch up and destroy vehicles if they need to. Okay. All right, back at it again with the stratagems. So, next stratagem is tactical retreat. So, this one can be used in your movement phase just after an Orks unit from your army falls back. That Orks unit, until the end of the turn, your unit is eligible to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which it fell back. This can be very strong for several units, and this is the ones that I broke down for you. So, you have the battle wagon. You get to recharge with that death roller, do battle shock with that, or tank shock rather, right? So you have the ability to do that and put a lot of damage onto a unit once again. You also have the kill rig for the same reasons. You can fall back, right? You can fall back and do tank shock and refight with all of those weapons once again. You also have Squig Hog Boys, which is really nice to have them to come out, shoot with their stickers, and then go back into close combat because those stickers are 2 damage as well. Potentially get them +1 to hit. Things like that can be very strong. So you're just doubling the damage, right? So this is what you want to do. You want to fall back, double the damage, shoot them, tank shock them, and then recharge them and add all this additional damage to these units. And also the Storm Boys. So you can use the crunching descent, right? So you can actually fall back, use crunching descent in your charge phase once again. All right. And then crunching descent, speaking of which, right, is great for killing smaller units or picking off the dying, right? Those dying units, those rhinos that have 2 wounds on it. You just go in there, do a crunching descent, finish it off. Then everything in the inside ends up coming out, and you end up fighting those, right? So you get to destroy a vehicle and potentially a unit that's coming out of the transport. So very, very strong stratagem. I'm definitely going to use them on my Storm Boys. I'm going to make sure to use them in combination with tactical retreat as well with my Storm Boys if I fall back. But I'm specifically going to use them a lot on the Squig Hog Boys, things like that. So I can re-engage, after I've shot, thrown bomb squigs, whatever it might be, and make that unit disappear as fast as possible. And then going on to the very last page for these stratagems, it's on to the next. So, in your opponent's movement phase, just after an enemy unit falls back, 1 Orks unit from your army that was within engagement range of that enemy unit at the start of the phase, your unit can make a normal move of up to 6 inches. Now, this is a great stratagem, all right? So that stratagem can actually help you jump back into your transport because it's a normal move. It also means you can throw bomb squigs after the normal move. All right. It also means you can get cover or just end up hiding, right? Whatever you need to do to get out of there, you can make sure you can do it with this stratagem. Jump into a vehicle, throw some bomb squigs, get cover or hide. Very, very strong. Make sure to use this properly, but it can be used for the case scenarios like I was speaking about. And the last stratagem is the dead sneaky. So this allows you to do upsy downsies for Mandos and Storm Boys. No round to come back into as well. You can also do rapid ingressing, and it's great for late game objective stealing, right? You can come in battle round 5, do that secret mission where you're going in behind enemy lines and taking those points, or just holding an objective for a 5-point swing in that last battle round. Whatever it might be, dead sneaky, having upsy downsies is always it's always fantastic to have an ability just like this. So we talked about a lot of things on this episode. It was a very special one for me to go through as I love this detachment very much. The Tactical Brigade is very cunning. I'm glad that they gave us the ability as Ork players to play something as thematic and fun as this detachment. But that all comes to time, right? And we shall see exactly how this develops throughout the certain weeks and months this coming forward in the year 2025. We should definitely know which of the org detachments are doing very well, but this seems to be very fun. So as always, I hope you like the show. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe as always. And don't forget Onslaught Gaming 40K, where victory is just a strategy away. But most importantly, don't forget. War!